Oh boy.
Oh boy, Steve is right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to State College Live and the Central PA Theater and Dance Fest. We're going to get started here just in a couple of minutes. It'll be super, super fun today. We have an hour of poetry. For those of you that are watching this not live and are watching it later in the future, welcome again to watching some amazing poetry here on State College Live as part of the Central PA Theater and Dance Fest. We're currently live on the State College Live Facebook page, as well as the YouTube page for the Central PA Theater and Dance Fest. If you are watching, feel free to use the chat. If you want to send something in the chat right now, see David Sharp sent us a chat just saying hello. David saying hi. David is a frequenter of Three Dots Downtown and of Webster's. He's been to a few different poetry stuff, so it's really, really awesome. You can also feel free to like this and share it so more people can see the poetry that's going on here for this next hour. You can also send a tip on the bottom. You'll see it scrolling to State College Live. That's to help out the Central PA Theater and Dance Fest, make sure it keeps its door open for the future. Yes, David says this is cool. I think it's super cool that we can do this stuff virtually. We do have three poets today. We have Marjorie, Steve, and Camille, and we're going to go in that order. Each artist is going to have 12 to 15 minutes. I'll keep time. I trust you all know your reading much more than I do. So, you know, I think Camille's going last. So if the other two go long, we'll just have to cut you out completely, and then you can get mad at them.
Needs must.
So we do have Mary saying hello. Hi from Mary. And we also have Nicole is excited to hear these amazing poets read. So we'll see how it is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kick Steve and Camille out. So goodbye.
Bye.
I want to kick you all out. And we're going to bring up the banner because we have Marjorie Maddox here. So Marjorie, thank you so much. This is the first time you and I have ever met and ever worked together. So give me like the elevator pitch. Give me the how you started writing poetry, where you get your inspiration, and what we can expect over the next 12 to 15 minutes.
Oh, wow. Well, I started writing when I was just a kid. My very first poem was published in a Campfire Girl magazine. And I was fortunate to have a family that really encouraged the arts. I write about lots of different things. I write poetry, fiction, creative nonfiction, and children's literature. Today, I'm going to read some things that has to do with our present situation.
Okay, that's super awesome. I'm looking forward to we also have Lisa looking forward to hearing you read.
Yay, Lisa.
So we have some people there. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to get out of here.
Okay.
I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to make you the solo, and then I'll let you read a few. And if there's something that strikes me, I'll hop back in and we'll have a little bit of a chat. So does that sound good?
Sounds great.
All right. We have our first reader coming up, everybody. Give some snaps in the chat, and we'll be back here in a few minutes to talk.
Okay, thank you so much for having me, and thank you for all of you there in the audience online. As I said, I wanted to start by reading some things that have to do with our present situation, which includes some newer poems, of course. One of the hardest things for me here in central Pennsylvania is being separated from my 91-year-old mother, who is still on lockdown in her assisted living place in Arizona. And although I'm grateful every day to talk to her by phone, I still worry about her. So this first poem is called During My Daily Phone Call to Our Assisted Living Facility, My Mother Explains That She is Slowly Fading Away. And it is not the light, but the dust in the light that rises, plunges, plateaus on the short of my exhale, less final than a sigh that dies from hopelessness, but still there, heavy, scattered, near dusk, and it peppers voice in the O of the weighty unseen, voice unraveling the feared, the obvious. And it is not the distance between words, between parent-child, not the desert under the plain, or the plain cruising above and past the jagged mountains, the wholesome prairies, the vast expanse of flat nothing I've come to expect from questions, those dust-to-dust queries that filter, block, blind, restrict, restrain. Not the miles, but those same particles that rise, plunge, plateau on the long of my exhale that now wraps the plain, the air, the distance, not in dust, but this inhale of what could or could not be transmitted from the state of my loved ones here, in the fear where we cower together, 2,000 miles cross country to her, lockdown, love on lockdown, vulnerability, the only transportation, and the law, and what we cannot and can speak. All the while, my mother and I stay where we are. The dust still swirls. She still breathes on the other end of the line. I am slowly fading away, she states again, matter-of-factly, voice so slight, it unravels me. Nowhere to go but here, daily rerun of routine, ear to a phone, listening, dust in light rising, exhale, inhale a life, multiplied or halved. I am slowly fading away, I state again, matter-of-factly, my voice so slight, it unravels her. I also wanted to read a poem from my book, Transplant, Transport, Transubstantiation, if I can get it in the screen there. This is a book that is focused on my father's unsuccessful heart transplant. He had his first heart attack when he was 38, and he lived until the age of 65. And he had 10 cardiac arrests during that time. But I think this poem of grief really speaks to what many people have been experiencing the last 6 months or so. Bury our heart. Like every other, this is the year of shifting sorrows, the thin shadows of land that slip from countries we've left for fear or want of finding ourselves in a handful of dirt. Even in sleep, a warm wonder of birth and loss. There too, the earth's vibrations, the leveling of cliffs in eyes we claim. The soul is the land, liquid in the lines of veins that stripe the inner atlas. It bubbles and flows, smooths the rough roads, carves out our caves of refuge, our weeping echoes. Here too, they will find us, the outcasts, the fugitives, the lost, the abandoned, the running for our lives. O homeland of sadness, these dusty bones that could not save. I have held in my clay hands the fine grains of his blood, bold in my muddy palms. I have held in my earthen arms the jagged pot of his pain, brimming and bitter. I have waited for that open mouth of the world to lay him down. And although this next poem was written in 2016 in response to Black Lives Matter, it unfortunately is still very applicable today. And the inspiration came from a CNN story about transporting hearts for transplants in what they called Heart in a Box. Heart in a Box, CNN story, July 9th, 2016. No picnic cooler look-alike, the kind transporting a dead man's heart to my father in '93, after his 30 years of near death, when the blizzard-driving, really dead anonymous donor said yes to a life not his. No, today's latest medical advance keeps the dead's bloody Valentine humming, all the way to the sterile, stretched out on the table, almost corpse, knocked out while the crying bystanders pray for mercy, for miracles. And outside in the real bloody world of Baton Rouge, Falcon Heights, Dallas, my town, yours, no heart pa-pa-pumps in Alton, Philandro, Lorne, Michael, Brent, Patrick, Michael J., while watching bystanders pray for, quote, advances and, quote, miracles. And no heart pa-pa-pums in the dead silence of the dug up ground where they'll be transported, bloody organs in another box, because some said no to a life not theirs, while others, between the beats and the beatings, the rat-tat-tats and the pa-pum, pa-pum, pa-pums, tried to say yes. So on a bit lighter note, as you may or may not be able to tell, those of you who know me, I have not had a haircut since March. Recently, however, our son cut my husband's hair. And so this is a poem about how we navigate this new world, I think. During stay-at-home orders, our son cuts my husband's hair. The division of before, after, begins again. Indoor, outdoor, the backyard wild with weeds, the hum of clippers angling along the overgrown lawn of my husband's scalp. Our child adult, too young to remember 9/11, refuses fear, keeps his eye and hand steady. Gray locks float happily down, settle on a patio that has no memory of before and why. Now the student turned barber adjusts the razor, circles an ear, without hesitation, steers confidently to mitigate the proliferation of beard. Under the sharp blade of the vibrator, my husband relaxes, calmly exposes his neck. And yes.
I just wanted to make sure that you know that Susan Rimby says you look good.
Oh, hey, Susan. It's good to hear from you.
Where could people find? I know you said you were reading the one about the unsuccessful transplant out of a book. Is there a place that people can grab that if they would like to support you in that way?
Sure. It is on my website. And it's called Transplant, Transport, Transubstantiation. So you can find all of my books on the website there. Yes, great finger pointing.
Right there. Okay, good. I just wanted to make sure that we're plugging all of the artists today, because that's what the Central PA Theater and Dance Fest is about. All right, I'm going to get out of here and let you continue.
Okay, great. So come March, my husband, who is a professor at Lycoming College, my son, who is a student at Syracuse, and myself, who I teach at Lock Haven, as you know, we were all, of course, online on our classes at the same house. And so this is really about that poem, really about that kind of experience of all being involved with classes at the same time at our house here. Inside. One house and this rhythm of ritual, 6 a.m., 8 a.m., 4 p.m., our laptops open in the kitchen, the living room, a bedroom, hellos at the refrigerator, the living room, hellos at the refrigerator while ascending, descending the stairs, the constant tap of keys, the background of faraway horses we're all riding, professor parents, one day professor son, across this long expanse of knowledge where we're kicking up dust. Someone goes out for a walk. Someone returns. On our way to a strange horizon we hope is sunrise. Good morning, good afternoon, good night. And we gather for whatever's unfrozen or freshly baked, and we watch what makes us laugh or tear up or say, proud of you, love you, thank you. And one stays up all night grading essays. And one wakes up all night writing essays, and 2 wake up early grading essays, and everywhere there is typing and Zoom. And on the morning and the evening of the 42nd day, there is much darkness, but also light. And it was good. It was still good. Okay. Another brand new book that I just wanted to plug a little bit, Inside Out Poems on Writing and Reading Poems with Insider Exercises, just came out in April in the middle of all this. And this is really a book for middle grade and young adult writers who are interested in poetry, but really anybody who's interested in poetry, as well as parents and teachers. So it's a book that has poems about writing, and it explains how to write, has a poem on how to write an English sonnet, how to write an Italian sonnet, how to text a triolet. So I'm just going to read one poem from here, and it's called How to Write a Villanelle. To write a villanelle, think like a bird that soars and swoops in 7 different ways and sings a song that you've already heard, returning to its favorite branch to perch. Become a sparrow, light and quick and gray, to write a villanelle. Think how the bird salutes you every morning undeterred from trilling what it always wants to say within its favorite song, the one you've heard so many times you suddenly are stirred to listen closer still, to find the way to write a villanelle, just like a bird that flits across your vision in a blur and leaves the sound of beauty in its trail, still singing songs that you've already heard. Next time you want to fly away on words, remember what we talked about this day. To write a villanelle, think like a bird that sings a song that you've already heard. And as most of you probably know, with a villanelle, you have the first and third lines repeated in a set pattern throughout the poem. So I'm sure that you heard that. Okay, I wanted to end on a more uplifting poem, I guess, because some of these were pretty heavy, and with some joy. So this is called Ode to Everything. Enough of the lamentations. Open the window and sing. The world is awash with world. Color-dripping globe always tilting into some ah or another. Clouds stretching wide, plump happiness. Even in the noisy stage show of showers, such sunny ovations. And the birds, overpopulating every poem, swoop here for free. Swallow, hawk, robin, gull, eagle, what else can be written but wings that wave horizon to horizon? And enough of windows, praise doors, step out with arms open and eyes gathering vim and vision, grandeur trailing from word, worm and woodchuck, branch puzzles of woods, open boat of breeze, all brimming with hey and hallelujah and celebrate, such green giving of thanks, such miraculous mercy of earth, calm valley, and even this rugged, rocky chain we climb now as family, claiming praise as respite, holding close each breaking day, dangerous yet divine in all its gorgeous glory. Thank you very much.
Yay! Awesome. There was the closing line about, day 42 and it's still good. Mary loved that closing line. David Sharp telling us that this is amazing, so really loved your reading, so awesome. And also Dawn telling us that they used Inside Out because it's an amazing resource for both middle school and high school, even workshops as adults. So they can find that on your website as well, is my guess?
Yes, absolutely.
It's right there, the website?
Yep.
Right there. Well, cool. So how'd you feel that went?
Great audience and great, of course, MC.
Oh, of course. It's all about me. I get that. We have both Lisa and Mary saying it's wonderful. For those of you that are in the chat, we just finished up with Marjorie Maddox. We have 2 more people coming up. If you would like to donate through Venmo for the Central PA Theater and Dance Festival, there is the State College Live Venmo below. And if you want to help support the artists, of course, the best way to do that is directly to their websites. We'll have websites up for all 3 of our poets today. Go and buy their books, spread their love. Another easy way to just share the love for the local poetry is just sharing this Facebook live event. And so if you just go ahead and click that share button, share it with your friends, you'll get more people in here. We're already up to 18 people, which is a great viewing for some poetry on a Saturday afternoon. I think we can get to 20 if we have a few more people share that. So Marjorie, thank you so much for joining us. You can feel free to stick around backstage if you want, or disconnect. That's up to you. But want to wave goodbye to everybody?
No, I want to hear the rest. So
okay, all right. We'll see you around. I'm going to take you out. Awesome. That was awesome. So glad. State College Live, we are here. So myself and Jason Brown started State College Live to try and help with local businesses, nonprofits, theaters, different events to bring a live aspect to the quarantine times that we have. We've been doing a few other events. We here at State College Live have a game night tonight, Categories at 8 p.m. If you're interested, you can come back. It's completely free. And we have 3 different prizes, some gift cards to places around town. We also have a songwriting competition happening next week. And we're going to have an announcement on our page tomorrow at 2 p.m. So again, the best way to stay involved with State College Live is just liking this page. And we'll have a ton of stuff from local nonprofits, local businesses, local artists, bringing you stuff every single week. So I'm going to bring Steve onto the stage.
I'm here.
Hi, Steve.
Hi.
Are you
Hi.
ready to do some poetry?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Should I start, or you want to quiz me?
Nope. I want to hear all of your stuff that you've been telling me. Steve has been saying that he's ready and that he's going to have the best poems ever for you all today on Facebook and YouTube. So are you ready?
Not anymore. I was for a while.
All right, we're gonna let Steve go ahead, and we'll interrupt him a few times to get some questions out of him. Steve, take it away.
Okay. This is my first book. I'm going to read from that, and this is my new book. I'm going to read some for that, and I'm also planning to read some newer poems. I write narrative poetry, so basically I am a storyteller. So this poem was written about 6 or 7 years ago, and it's still one of my favorites. It's called Flotilla. You left behind 1/2 a jelly donut, stay it was last Wednesday. Some clothing, moth-eaten, mildewed. 2 shoes, one black, one brown, with newsprint for the soles. You left behind a paper sack of winter warmth and poetry by Whitman, Poe, and Crane, well fingered and browned in age. You walked into the river and left behind $4.18, which I have spent on coffee and a banana nut muffin that crumbled in its freshness. Your poetry, penned in your perfect prep school hand, was stuffed inside 2 newish socks, atop the brown and laceless shoe. It is unnervingly good, but I can use the socks. I crumpled your words in their freshness and set them to sail upon the river, page by remarkable page. This first poem from my new book is a brother poem. I write about my neighborhood in Bronzeville growing up, and I write about my family a lot. And since it's a poem about my brother, you know he's in trouble even before I start reading. So he's in trouble in all of them. And this one is called Zippo. I was 6 when the corner hardware store caught fire. We were chased from our apartment by smoke and heat and the staccato pop of flammables bursting. I remember the sudden burn of winter and my mom's blue lips as my dad, muttering and cursing, tried to coax the old packet 8 to life. The world outside was ice and ash. Sirens bawled and yellow-jacketed men wielded axes like arms, and strained against hoses struggling to break free. Mom told me years later that she had wrapped me in an old fur. She said it was the coldest night of the year, and only the heat from the car kept us from frostbite. Try as I might, I can't remember that. I remember I shared the back seat with my brother, 13 and the source of all knowledge, and that he'd found a cigarette lighter that week and showed me how to make a fire of rags and paper, and that his terrified face flickered all night in the flame light. We all like to sing Forever Young, but I think we would all like to eliminate the teenage years if that's true. And this poem is about the teenage years, if you like. It's called Sex Appeal. From his early teens, my fast friend Tom was fluent in woman. His at-easeness with the fair sex was so at odds with my slight experience, I suspected a pact with Lucifer. I hung around, hoped that one or more budding damsel might tire of Tom and find my tight-lipped stammer and pimpled brows appealing, but never a nibble. Secretly, I wished Tom rickets. I wished him a misstep on the subway platform as the 7th Avenue Express roared through. I wished that Zeus would bolt his too easy heart and leave him to smolder in the schoolyard. I grew up in, oh, you're back.
I'm back. Well, you got some good comments I wanted to make sure you were aware of. David Sharp loves it. David loves everybody, which is awesome. And then Mary was talking about not the most recent poem, but the poem before, saying, no matter how many times she hears it, it still hits hard. So that's good when your art is making people feel.
Yes.
For sure. And we're up to 23 people, so the sharing worked. All of you out there that are sharing the stream. Steve, when did you start writing poetry?
I've always written, but I'm trained as an engineer. Okay. Did research in mechanical hearts and heart valves and turbulence for my career here. So about 10 years ago, it was after I retired, I started getting serious at writing poetry. And I've been a member of the poetry group now for 6 or 7 years. And that's really helped. So every 2 weeks we workshop a poem.
Oh, awesome. And then you said you were reading from a couple of books. How can people purchase those books?
Oh, they purchase them through Amazon.
Okay.
They can purchase Kelsey. They could stop at my front door and knock. I have hundreds of thousands, it just seems like. So
okay.
Lots of ways.
Okay,
Yeah.
awesome.
The Bellefonte Art Museum will carry them in as of Tuesday, probably. So that's a good cause if you want to buy your books there.
Awesome. All right, I'm going to get out of here and let you read some more.
There's more? Oh, okay.
Are you done? No, you're not done. You got more.
All right, this is a Bronzeville poem and a Vietnam poem, two in one. It's called Leroy. It was right after the Rent-A-Cop, with his fine-tuned sense of self-preservation, made his tattooed self scarce, that they came on the court. So loose-limbed you imagined them melting in the August heat. Yet their procession seemed as inevitable as the tide. I hadn't realized I was still dribbling until Leroy was on me, face to face. I had played b-ball with him at pickup games on Stone Avenue. He was like some subatomic particle, always moving. He was good, and when he went up for a jump shot, I was left defending knees. Leroy showed me a metal Band-Aid box full of 22 shells, and a taped-up pistol as ugly as Bronzeville. He told me, I'd stay off the streets tonight. Soon after, the draft started to round up the basketball stars, the craps addicts, and the layabouts from the bowling alley. Word was Leroy flushed his subway token and took off with just his basketball and his dad's pay envelope. They haven't caught him yet, and the smart money says they never will. Perhaps he will grow old and prosperous on a court somewhere, lofting one-hand set shots over his grandkids' heads and catching only net. All right, this is the most hopeful poem I've written, and you can tell right away from the title, which is called The Year We All Got Cancer. Winter stayed. The April rain so cold it left blisters of ice on an earth as scarred and pockmarked as a landscape mired in war. We waited through the freeze and thaw for some sign from the recalcitrant earth, anxiety growing with each passing day. The sun was of little use, peeking indifferently through the skeletal clouds as if late for an appointment on another planet. We had become a shivering muddle, a people resigned to winter, when we woke one morning to wild things bursting, fields of dandelions, mustard greens, and in the most desolate spot of all, a stand of wild asparagus. Every now and then I go to yoga. I take a wonderful yoga for old people class. And every now and then the yoga instructor does something or says something that cracks me up. And this poem is from that. This is called Lion's Breath. At yoga yesterday, while downward dogging, our instructor asked us for 5 rounds of lion's breath. It's easy. When you exhale, stick your tongue out as far as it will go. And with the gruesome face that pose ensures, make the most god-awful rasping noises. After 2 repetitions, I began to laugh. I thought how wonderful my father would have found the practice. I imagine him lion breathing at the checkout line at Walmart, during a sappy love scene at the local 12 screen, and at the Insomniacs gin game under the lights at Century Village. He'd teach technique to every child that crossed his path, and 100 years from today, his descendants will still be disrupting kindergarten nap time. Picture the peals of pure joy as a room of 5-year-olds discovers lion's breath. I don't know how I'm doing on time. I assume I have hours. Okay, this is some newest stuff. I don't have hours? I can't hear you. Are you muted?
You know what? I told myself I was not going to do that. I said, you know what? I'm going to make sure I have a big sign that says unmute. And guess who forgot to unmute? This guy. This guy forgot to unmute. I could write a poem about unmuting. That's going to be my first poem for the Central PA Theater Dance Fest next year. It's going to be about unmuting yourself on Zoom. No, you still have some time. I just wanted to let you know you've got some fans here, Pat and Ann.
Yeah, it cost me a lot of money, but people are actually showing up.
Steve, your humor, I cracked up lying when you're like, this is one of the most joyful poems I've written, as you can tell by its title, The Year We All Got Cancer. I almost spit out my drink. I love that dry humor, and it brought a smile to my face. So I'm going to get out of here and let you, Lion's Breath. Everyone liked that one. Lion's Breath will never seem the same again. Everyone liked that one. I'm going to get out of here and let you do your last few poems. So.
Okay. All right. I have a few. I won't read them all, but this is called Going, Going, Gone. It's another neighborhood poem, and actually I like it. Here's a picture of the 4 of us by the old synagogue on Bristol Street. It's February, and our mothers have dressed us for the Arctic. Can you tell the coats are hand-me-downs? We're 6 or 7 and closer than brothers. To hear us tell it now, we were abandoned and raised by feral beasts on the savage streets of Brooklyn. But it wasn't like that. Sure, we were poor, but who wasn't? That was 1953. We've seen each other through school and war, marriage and divorce, and the promise of infants who grew and grew, only to scatter like startled sparrows. But that's not what I want to tell you. Eddie died this year, smoked for 60 years and got hit by a car crossing Amboy Street. In 1961, Eddie hit the longest home run ever in a police athletic league game. We shouted ourselves raw as he loped around the bases, even though we lost that game 12-1 to a team that never had to share gloves. The 3 of us share old stories over dominoes and whiskey on a stoop on Bristol Street. The synagogue is long gone. Soon the rich will take the neighborhood. We will pass, and all those singular memories will flash out like an ancient TV tube dying, like they never were. All right, when I was growing up, I knew a guy named Benny. He was an enigma. He'd show up when he felt like he didn't live close. And we called him Benny the Book because he made book. And this is called urban legend. The rest of this is all made up, of course. Eddie told everyone Benny lived in a fourth floor walk-up on Watkins Avenue, in one of those crummy tenements that had only heat in summer. But he later admitted he'd never been there. Jenny said her cousin Ray told her Benny lived with his mom and dad, and that the mom was old country, spoke only Yiddish, and took in sewing to pay for luxuries like rent. Desperately poor, she said, Ray said. But we all knew Ray made up stories, and when pressed, he'd only say, "How would I know?" Marty was sure that Benny's dad led a horse-drawn cart around the cobble streets of Bronzeville, selling rags and tin pots and sharpening knives for future suicides, we joke. And then remember Anna, who had. "Looks just like him," Marty insisted. But the guy was named Jesus and came from San Juan, and Benny was as Jewish as Solomon. Benny would come by midweek, dressed in what must have been his dad's cast-offs and black high-top sneakers that might have been new 20 years ago. He'd join us for basketball, taking the court with a winning smile, though he dribbled like he thought the ball was radioactive, and he might, God forbid, have to pick it up. Other days, Ricky assured us with great authority, Benny ran a floating craps game in a schoolyard somewhere in East New York. But Ricky had no idea why someone needed to run a craps game. And what does floating mean anyway? Huckle Benny on a raft on the East River? Benny could talk you inside out and seemed to know all there was to know about everything. It was a bit of a challenge, even for those of us who went to class hoping to learn what Thomas Jefferson High School had to teach. And Davy might say, "Let's see what he knows about the Spanish Civil War." And just like that, Benny would take you to Barcelona, to the aroma of saffron and garlic and the sound of the ocean breaking the news of the death of the Republic. But what Benny knew best was baseball, ERAs and batting averages and who would play who 2 weeks from Wednesday. And yes, he made a little book. And yes, he made a little money. But no one begrudged him that. I pictured him the next Bill Allen. But they drafted him and sent him to Nam with the rest of the kids from Watkins and Thetford, Chester and Bristol. And some came back, older and hotter and as doomed as that Spanish Republic. But Benny never did. I have two more. Is that okay? Okay. Your time. This is a poem about my dad, and there's some truth to it. When Mom announced you were coming north for your birthday, we planned a celebration. Guys only. We'd take you to the rib joint on College Avenue, and then, after you'd set the local record, trundle you off to the new cigar shop buried in a mini mall next to the donut shop, catering to good cigars and incredible bullshit. There was a time not long ago when you could eat for three, while spinning fantastic tales you seemed to invent on the spot. We watched, we listened, we learned, cadence and timing. But that night you hardly touched your ribs, though the meat fell from the bone, and sitting quiet and distant, you puffed only once or twice on what was a very fine cigar. They say elephants know when their time has come, and march to their burial ground with peace, pace, and precision. And we all knew when you boarded that plane with a tattered smile that we would never see you again. And this is my last poem. I think it has to do with getting older. It's called Message in a Bottle. I was hoping you might read this. Come upon it unexpectedly in that journal with the intriguing name you often fan through but never buy, in that famed bookstore on the avenue in the city you now call home. Or in a dog-eared and stained anthology, broken by age on a crowded shelf between Ammons and Auden, in the library just down the block from the garden apartment you share with your sister. Or hear it read on YouTube, accompanied by viola and cello by that old poet whose once sonorous voice is fading faster than his face. As you wait for dinner in that care facility overlooking the once scenic lake. And you might have the urge to reach me one last time, before the meter expires on the lives we have borrowed. But better, perhaps, if not. And anyway, how? Still, I hope you're reading this now. That's it.
Yay. Oh, you have some great comments here in the chat for you, Steve. We got our first comment from YouTube, from Lisa, saying that the Lion's Breath poem reminds her of the lion outside the New York Library.
Yeah, I posed for that.
You posted that. We have Dawn, who loves your wit and the descriptive details in your poems. I 100% agree. David Bauman says, it's so great to hear you read again, Steve. So my guess is you know this David person.
Yes. Yes.
And David Sharp says, good job. Susan says, thank you. And Anne gives you a couple of claps. So this is the first time I've heard you reading, and it was wonderful. Is there anything you want to say before we kick you out of here and bring in Camille?
No, I want to hear Camille.
All right, that sounds good. Thank you so much, Steve. I will remove you, and we will get rid of that name. So thank you all. For those of you who are joining us a little late, we are having the Saturday Poetry Hour for the Central PA Theater and Dance Fest. If you'd like to support the Central PA Theater and Dance Fest, you can go to Venmo, which is a mobile app that you can download and send money to @State College Live. You can see it scrolling across here. That money goes to help support the Central PA Theater and Dance Festival. We will be, the Theater and Dance Fest goes all day today and tomorrow, so there's lots of events. State College Live has one more event, which is this evening at 8 p.m. We're going to be playing categories. We're going to be doing a game night. It's all theater based. It's going to be super fun. Myself and Jason and Kim, we will be hosting it. We'll be cracking jokes. There'll be a ton of different games that you can play along with it. You can donate money to local nonprofits to make us eat some hot sauce, make us sing karaoke, a bunch of really fun stuff. It's going to be super interactive from 8 to 9:30 p.m. tonight, right here on the State College Live Facebook page. We also have a songwriting competition coming up next weekend. Those details will go out tomorrow on our Facebook page at 2 p.m. So I'm going to bring Camille in to the stream.
Hi.
Hello. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Two great acts to follow. I'm happy to be on the same page as them.
Oh, awesome. I love the books in the background. Are those little rubber duckies there too?
They are. They topped our wedding cake.
Oh, very nice. Very nice. I like it. So I guess the same question that I asked the last two, when did you start writing, and where do you get your inspiration from?
I've been writing forever. My family's are big storytellers. If you wanted to have any time at the table, you needed to be able to tell a good story, or you just kind of get talked over. My brother's also a writer, so there's a long history of this. Marjorie knows this too, because both my brother and I spoke at Lock Haven together. We were brought in together as like a writing duo. So yeah.
Well, that's super awesome.
Yeah, it was fun.
Well, I'm excited to hear and to comment and to pull up some chat. So I'm going to get out of here and let you get started.
Okay, sounds good. So I have some new work that I wanted to read. I have been writing a little bit during quarantine, but as some of you know, I have two small children, and that makes it hard. But I'll show you this. I painted this self-portrait during quarantine. And then I realized that when I stop writing, I go a little crazy. So I had to get back to writing. So this is my quarantine poem. It's called Quarantine 2020. Around every corner, you return to yourself, neither coming nor going, just wandering the same circle of stairs, meeting the same gray face of inside, your bathrobe of a face, something you wouldn't wear outside but have worn every day this week without fail. You've even ventured to the mailbox with this expression, like slippers shuffling. You can't quite move your mouth to form words, but who is there to listen? You wave at cars now, wear mascara, which you've never done in your life, but nothing makes you cry behind the scrim of what could happen next in this strange disaster movie that progresses so quietly, propelled by the mouse under your hand, and the swearing you mumble. You delineate days with color-coded charts of cheery activities for the children, read-alouds and number corners, and elaborate hellos that circle invisible classrooms, populated by black squares with names typed on them. Sometimes children appear in headsets, as if to take your order or pilot a shuttle. Sometimes giggling catches you off guard, and you suspect children of playing, but they've only found an entrance for a moment, and then slip back to our time, and the children will click off their classrooms and abandon their screens, and they too will circle the staircase and meet you coming and going, asking for lunch or breakfast, or was it dinner? So I've been, like I said, my poems have been getting, I'm not usually sort of overtly political, but we're living in tumultuous times. And so this poem I actually wrote for my student for something that was going on with her. State College Winter for PT. Dark waters this morning, in some place far from here, where they rustle a shoreline, and I see only a frost line, edging the pavement like a cake curled against too many fingers. We're barren here, the brown of January, and a world at war with itself, the nihilism of winter and Congress and guilt, and children who try to kill themselves as we try to give them reason to live, while we use bubblers to douse fires and knit booties for burned paws. It's stupid. I'll say it. I still worry every morning whether my children have brushed their teeth, and I worry about children in cages who aren't allowed to hug their siblings, who lost their siblings or parents, or who are made to hug someone they don't want to touch, or who can't speak, or who spoke once and were silenced, or my student who the school tells me may come to class scared or silent or accompanied by an adult, though she herself is an adult. And what happened to her was adult. And they call it sexual harassment and not rape. And they call me mandated reporter like I am compelled and impartial. And I talk about the heartbeat in a line of poetry, how it can be captured and released. And she listens and nods because her attention needs to be captured and contained, needs the line to enjam again and again to never end, to stay with me in the mesmer of my voice, in the institution of form where a line has a definitive end and purpose, history and sound, and it will never rise off the page and touch her, and she can always slam the book shut. Okay, so I'll lighten up a little bit. So I have worked with Nicole Miyashiro and Marjorie. We both did an ekphrastic poetry reading. And so this was something that I had tried for it and felt that I did not succeed with. But then I reworked it, so maybe it's better. There's a picture, or there's a glass work at the Palmer Museum of Art, and you can actually see it online. It's called The Life of Singles, and it's a series of these different glass pieces, and it's like blown glass, but they're each within their own glass block. And again, the title is The Life of Singles, and it's inspired by Oiva Toika's glasswork of the same name. I may be mispronouncing that person's name horribly, and if so, I'm very sorry. 1, we rest beside and atop each other, encased in glass, a nasty sort of joke, small on the part of an artist who works in teams, guides minions across the floor, who calls out commands and sees them met, who spins and melts and solidifies only to contain. Only observation, the fluid eye, the cold matter, curvaceous and lush. I can see they want to touch me, but here we are. Some Hollywood squares, some B-lister cracking jokes far from the warm hordes, their intimate laughter. 2, I look like a crumpled bodice atop a long skirt, sheer with lines, a red carpet dress where you can still see the undergarments. So much window dressing. In the corner, a skirt sprouts horned ears as if one might shriek into them and be heard. One seems a Jane Eyre cloak, another bears petals ripe and red. Were we the bad ribs, the ones the reaching hand of God could make nothing of, the body split open for nothing? The serpent slithered past, seeking only the paired ones, salt and pepper, hands and gloves, Adam and Eve. 3. No one whispers in the glass. Bereft now of breath, we are bred in a box. Once we were the act, and now the creation. Such stillness here. The arcing bodies rain down, but never pour or spill, never simply sag. We once were fluid, inherited heat, a molten bulb of body, and what we might have been surpassed all we know now to be. Here, only the echo of would-be selves. So, sorry, you're here.
Don't be sorry. Don't be sorry. We just have some great stuff. So these were about the State College the winter poem. So Mary was saying like, what a poem.
It's my nickname.
Yeah, Tim, I was like, okay, well, before I read this one, I was like, first time Camille and I met, I was like, okay, so do you want me to say Camille-Yvette, Camille, and it's like, oh, or Kim? I'm like, okay, that's not one of those. But the website is I had a typo at the beginning, so I went back and fixed it. I think it's correct now, because it's WELSCH.
Yep.
Correct. And so people, please visit these websites that we post up there to support the local poets here in town. So that State College poem, heartbreakingly beautiful, and the turns are amazing. And Nicole with some nice words saying, "You more than succeed. Your words really speak to me, and you're an inspiration." And your storytelling must be really good, because David Sharp says he could totally picture it in his mind. So awesome words of encouragement, and
awesome.
I just want to make sure that you know that. And this is what I really enjoy this type of poetry reading. We've actually done a few of them before the festival on State College Live, and I hope to have some of the three of you, one, two, or all three of you at some point do a lunchtime reading, because the people in the chat, they can, it's a lot of interaction versus going to Webster's where, you can't really give your praise during it, besides just maybe a little bit of hooting and hollering and some snaps. So I just wanted to make sure you're getting your praise before I let you finish up here.
Well, thank you. It's really cool to have the interaction.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is it's always hard to. This is my my poetry book, The Four Ugliest Children in Christendom, and I'm going to read a few poems out of it. So in it, two anthropologists adopt four children based solely on their ugliness, their physical unattractiveness, to do a long-term longitudinal study on the impact of ugliness on adolescent development, childhood development. So you have the perspective of the anthropologist in the form of specimen reports, and you have first-person narratives from the children themselves, and then you have third-person narration. And so I'll read you a couple of poems from that. The four ugliest children in Christendom go to the mall. Oh, I should also say before I do that, this is not real. This is not true. It's not based on any factual events. Although, having said that, there are multiple studies on the impact of physical unattractiveness on children. The four ugliest children in Christendom go to the mall. The four ugliest children in Christendom do not date, eat in public, gossip, talk on the phone, hang out. They breathe with their mouths open, wheezing the soundtrack of their colossal lack. When the girl, a ghost of laddered bones, goes to the makeup counter, the stylist clutches a compact and wonders, what am I to emphasize? She brushes layers of foundation, trying to rebuild, but Rome wasn't built in a day, and the ugliest girl in Christendom walks away, looking beige, a little cracked, her face a caked pumpkin on the white twig of her neck. The twins terrorize the toy store. gleeful in their ability to repulse. They lurk around corners, then leap out, startling children once with their faces and twice when the masks don't come off. Bored, they play at being machines. Throats full of whistles, theirs is a language of grinding. The oldest boy stands in a bookshop, reading about religion, trying to understand. If we are made in God's image, what part can we possibly be? Okay, so this is a point of view from the oldest boy, who is like an older teenager. The ugliest boy in Christendom considers bliss. If I were the first person in the new world, symmetry would not equal beauty. A face split in half should not recast itself. That is a sign of evil, doppelganger. In this new world, I would be Adam, etymologist and poet. 1 + 1 would not equal 2. Nothing would be whole. No parts would fit. All uneven pieces, we would tumble lopsided, never knowing enough to miss the perfect circle, the absent Eve. And this final one is is for the girl. The ugliest girl in Christendom goes to the gynecologist. When she asks the doctor what it looks like, the doctor hands the girl a small mirror. The girl curls her knobby shoulders forward, places the glass between her legs, and gasps in fury. Here, at last, all the missing pigment, all the rich color, the plump curvature she longs for. Outside, her body glows white, Siberian hair, pale eyes, skin white as pneumatic froth, and thin, so very thin. When she swims in front of the pool light, her siblings see her every attenuated bone, the long fingers of ribs closing over her heart. But here, between her legs, smiling lipstick. The doctor raises a questioning brow. The girl scowls more deeply, shimmies forward on the table and swings her legs down. The knock of her knees a dull sound. The doctor leaves and the girl pulls on her bra and shirt, contemplates ways to wear very short skirts, to bend until people see her burst. The real rage of her body, this small strip. She pulls her bikinis up slowly, fuming. What good is a secret that can't be told? Okay, so I have just a few more. I think I'm going to sort of cut this down a little bit. This is one for sort of our season, after the pool party. Tonight, we live in praise of the light, the long, slow breath that brings us to evening. The moon settles into the sky, a full figure pressed in blue velvet. The children sleep, their faces still half lit by the window's reveal, and the almost silence engulfs like water. Tricks us the way hair feels dry when it undulates in the lake, the way you almost believe you can gulp breaths and live the half-life between island and shore, surface and sandy ground. Before bed, before next and next, the light chooses to reveal the growing bones, the lengthening hollows. I am totally stopped, so I don't know if you guys can hear me or not. Okay, was I stopped for you? Was I frozen? Are you muted? Okay, so it's not me.
I was muted.
Okay.
Because I could hear you the entire time. The video was a little choppy, but you were fine. You're perfectly fine. I could hear the entire poem. So
okay.
That's
what I
okay.
was checking on.
No worries. I wanted to make sure. And I also cannot believe that I was muted again.
Okay, so I have, if it's okay, I have 3 more. Is that okay for time?
Yeah.
I think it should be. Okay. So I think the last 3 are sort of, again, from my perspective as a parent, since having children. It used to be spiders, dying alone, failure. Now, stairs, scissors and haircuts, automatic doors and running feet, dwindling wipes in the bag, other children, cruelty, predators, weight gain, weight loss, chronic crying, acne, depression, vaccinations, cold sores, communicable diseases, a lost catch, 7th inning and a strikeout, a slip in dance class, the red gum crosshatch of braces, a racy letter slipped in a boy's locker, the impossibility of calculus, gravel in knees bright with road rash, being shut out, silence. It's funny how your fears change as you become a parent. So I started sort of a poetry challenge with a child of my acquaintance, and she challenged me to write a sleep song. And so this was my sleep song, because my 7-year-old daughter likes to cuddle with me. My daughter sings me to sleep with her soft topography. In the city of sheets, she burrows, rising hills of body, the slight incline of leg, the rising hollow from belly to rib, the rounded hill of shoulder, her cheek, the resting place for lashes, shadow upon shadow in the darkened room. Each breath whispers sleep and stillness. Her hands search for mine, and she pulls my arm across her like a blanket, intent on my warmth and cradle. Years away from the inside of my body, she still curls into me, remembering the shape we once were. So this final poem is upsetting. It was upsetting to write. It's upsetting to be in the world. It's called American Mother for George Floyd. When the alligator returns and finds her egg dead, she opens her mouth and eats it, forces down the shell, the body of potential, all the lives she imagines for the cells inside it. And doesn't every mother do that? Swallow down the parts our children slough off, the dying dreams of tiny ballerinas, spent confidence. Then the moment they must carve off their trust in the world, teacher by stranger by officer, and thus we lose ours. And then that moment when all mothers heard our names called, when there was no breath left to give, no way it could be, our hands cool and soothing on our son's neck, when the last thing he had to give was the name Mama, and every mother swallowed it down into a body made large with loss, made large with a little boy in his hoodie, fingers sticky with Skittles, our girl just graduated and asleep in her bed. America, you make all mothers swell as we swallow and swallow each cry, each Black man, woman, and child calling our name. We are a body full to bursting, and we have been carrying a long time. No, we are ready to labor, and you are not ready for what we shall birth. Thank you very much.
Oh, that was a beautiful one to end on, and I can agree with you on that for sure, that it is a tough time. I'm going to bring Steve and Marjorie back. Yes, Camille, that was wonderful. There was both Susan and Betsy talking about how beautiful your poetry is. Thank you. Thank all three of you for those wonderful poems. There was such a wide range of them. My gosh, this was such a diverse collection, and I'm so happy that you all were able to share it. For those of you that were hanging out in the chat, we do have all three of their websites right here. So Marjorie at marjoriemaddox.com, Steve, Camille at Camille-Yvette Welsch, and then we've got stevieslaw.com. Please check all of them out. Please continue to check out all of the live streams that are going on here for the Central PA Theater and Dance Fest, and support your local live art. Does anyone have anything they want to say to end with?
I love Marjorie's poem about her mom.
I thought everything was so beautiful. Lots of things, both Valerie, Betsy, and Mary saying us. Yes, Betsy, this is available to watch later. It'll be up on the State College Live Facebook page, and it will also be up on the Central PA Theater and Dance Fest YouTube for this entire time. And then last but not least, Marcia was saying American Mother was very good. Nice to hear it read. It was a wonderful thing to end on. So for the three of you, thank you so much. For those of you in the chat, thank you so much for hanging out. And we hope we'll see you at another event. So goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Steve and Marjorie.